Well, we are in Saluda, Virginia, not too far from our Port Haywood house, and we're at the Middlesex County Museum with Goober the Traveling Bear. And this is the hometown to a great Marine, Lieutenant General Lewis Burwell Puller. And I've done the video of his resting place up the road at the church. Today we are going to visit the museum. Now there are two museums here. They're supposed to open at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. So this is the one here, and Goober and I will be checking them both out. And they have some cool gasoline pumps here. I'm going to guess this was once a filling station. And they do have some outdoor items. And then next door they have the visitor center and another museum. So we're going to take a look around, and they're supposed to open in a little while.
And they put car repair. You could order parts and they would come in. Our main museum was where the pool section was. You would come in and shoot pool while they would get your parts for you and everything. And then our other building that we have here was the home of the owners of that business. So we have a 1930s nice big wide porch to sit outside and listen to the birds and also
all right,
catch a breeze.
I'm going to pause here as we enter. Hello everyone, we're going to go into this Middlesex Museum for County of Middlesex in Saluda. And oh my gosh, it's Goober the Traveling Bear. He's already here, and it's amazing. There's a lot of stuff here. Hello ma'am, I'm Bill Molyneux with Goober the Traveling Bear, and who are you?
I'm Holly Horton, the Executive Director here at the Middlesex County Museum and Historical Society in Saluda, Virginia. Welcome.
Well, thank you. As you probably wonder, Goober he travels all over the country to help promote museums. What's the dates you're open and your time?
We are open to the public on Wednesdays and Fridays from 1 to 5, and on Sundays from 1 to 3.
Okay. Would you like to show me around a little bit?
We'd love to.
All right.
Should I carry him with me?
No, we let Goober rest.
Okay.
We don't want him overworked. Go ahead and.
So Middlesex County is located on the Chesapeake Bay. We're in the middle peninsula of Virginia. We're located between the Piankatank River, Rappahannock River, and the Chesapeake Bay. So we're a peninsula. We have been here in our original footprint geographically since our founding in 1669. We're originally part of Lancaster County. Broke off. We were part of the original influx of colonists coming from England and Europe, and then also eventually enslaved Africans that also arrived. So we have a large colonial presence. We were part of a lot of founding information about the colony as it grew. We had a lot of early immigrants who came in who helped build our area here as a whole, and then also the colony of Virginia. We had some big thinkers, educated thinkers, that helped to do that. So this area we see right here is based on the Saluda Historic District, which we received from the state of Virginia about 5 years ago. So we're looking at some of the businesses that were here, some of the personal life stories. We have some governors that lived here. I've got a bank president. I've got a governor of Virginia. I've got the attorney general who's also here. We've got some of our historic houses, Leafwood. This is from another one that is this is kind of an interesting picture here. We've got a hunting party that would have happened at the end of the harvest season, which would probably be about October-ish.
What would they have been hunting, may I ask?
Foxes, believe
Foxes.
it or not.
Oh, okay.
So this is another historic house. We had a lot of farms that had large tracts of land. We also had a lot of free blacks in our area as they came through, were granted manumissions, they became farmers, and then went on to buy up land with their families in generations that followed. So we have a lot of really interesting people who came through. We had, back in here, I've got some service oriented veterans that did a lot with their involvement with different wars. If we start with World War I over here.
All right, we'll start with World War I.
I've got some gas masks down here. I've got William Wells, who won a Purple Heart for his involvement in the war. I've got a really nice collection of uniforms here from 1, 2, and moving forward into the Iran-Iraq conflict. I've got a nurse here that served.
Now, may I ask, are these uniforms from your local people in the
They
area?
are. Mm-hmm. They were all donated.
So that makes them extra special too.
Yes, they all have a story to tell, and we're trying to tell that story in what we present within the walls of the museum. We have a nurse here that was from World War II. We're trying to also tell a lot of stories about people that are kind of left behind a lot, which include children, which include females, which include African Americans and Native Indigenous people. So we're trying to get that full voice about our county as we're putting together the museum. Over here we've got a little bit about the Revolutionary War. Because we are located where we are geographically, we were also very involved in the Revolutionary War and the founding of the country, of the Civil War here in Virginia. So we have a lot of artifacts that come to us through families that have been in the area that are handed down. We have a really beautiful collection of letters that were written during the Civil War here that wound up in an attic in New Jersey. And we tell the story of a gentleman who was writing to the sister of the person he was sharing the tent with in the Civil War, and during his involvement with the Civil War, and they ended up becoming married. And over the course of the travels, it's interesting to hear. He starts off as a very formal letter. Dear Miss Smith, thank you so much for talking to me. And then at the end, it's my dear Lizzie. So you can tell that they have formed a very strong commitment during the war, the course of the war. We have a lot of information here about the United States Colored Infantry that was involved. We had gentlemen that served in that. We had gentlemen that served in the 55th. And we had gentlemen that served, so we have both sides of the war that we're trying to tell the story of. Coming down here, one of our most famous veterans.
And that it is.
Chesty Puller.
I'm going to pause for a second. Mm-hmm. So I think probably the most famous person from your town is?
Chesty Puller. He was Lewis Burwell Puller, was born in West Point, which is about just a very short distance from here, less than 30 miles. And he went through school, matriculated through VMI. He was at the very end of his involvement at VMI when he wanted to join the war. So he left the school, entered into his training, and during his training the war ended. So he actually was not technically involved with World War I, but he became as an infantry, and he was brought into the Marine Corps. Because of that, he was never a commissioned officer because of his involvement with college. So that is one of the reasons he's so respected by so many of our veterans within the Marine Corps, is because he worked his way up. He was one of them. He had his feet in the mud and was hitting the ground running. So he has a wonderful story of courage, and his legacy is so profound that we have a lot of veterans come from all over the United States that want to see us. And this is a complete copy set of all the medals that he was given and during his service. We actually have an original trench coat here. He met a girl from Saluda, fell in love, Miss Virginia, and Evans was her maiden name, and they ended up marrying. They had 3 children. She was born in the area. Her family's from Middlesex County for multiple generations. She and Chesty retired here. They had a home that's over on Gloucester Road. I'll get people that come through here. So we have lots of stories about people, local people that were involved with the family over the course of multiple generations. As you come down this way, we have more. This gentleman served under Chesty, and he had some interesting stories. We have all of these original uniforms were presented to us by the families of these. We have our most prestigious award winner here.
I moved you over to the right a little bit.
Okay. This gentleman, Mr. Burl Newman, received the Medal of Honor for his involvement with his skirmish, and we have a bridge that's named after him here in the area. We also have a gentleman who was shot down during the D-Day invasion over France. He was involved with that involvement. And Billy Merchant, and he has a wonderful story. We have a gentleman that was a member of the 761st Tank Battalion. He was a Black Panther. You can see some of his comrades up there, and beside you is a Tuskegee Airman as you go to the left.
Okay.
So I have a wide variety of different kinds of military involvement with the different branches. Most of these gentlemen all were started off young. They came either out of high school or college and joined the military. So a lot of this gentleman here lived, Mr. Burrell lived into his hundreds.
Wow.
So that was a very interesting.
And I know I mentioned before the Carlisle War College, when you go into the entrance now to the Education Center, the 761st is their first monument, and the tank destroyer with their memorial. So.
Yes, he had he served, they were under Patton. And so they maneuvered through various skirmishes, and he has a very empowering story. We just had our high school, we had 6 classes of high school history students come through. This is their 3rd time through, and they'll come through one more time. And we've divided up the variety of different periods, but this past one was about World War I and II. So they just came through. We had did a variety of educational interactions, watched some videos. We had took some photography that had been taken of our World War I soldiers, and they did them as puzzles and put them together, and then we learned about their personal stories. What happens, one of them did not come back, so we learned about his sacrifice. We also learned about the ones that did come back and how they stepped forward into the rest of their lives. So it was a great way for the kids to be empowered by hearing personal stories, and they could become mentors to them about how they lived their lives based on what was important to them. Over here we have a sample of a family that's been in Middlesex County for, I would say 5 to 6 generations, probably more than that. But they have the Montagues. The original immigrant was Peter. This gentleman was a governor of the state of Virginia in the 1800s. His son was a Marine Corps general, and then his son was the Attorney General for the state of Kentucky. So they have a very honored place here in our county. This is 3 family members there together.
Wow.
So we actually have there his great-grandson inherited his red hair. So it's kind of interesting to see how that genetically came into play. So this back section we've dedicated on the home front. So we're covering the family, families, the children, the interactions with the home. We have toys here from a wide variety of time frames. I've got a nice collection of dolls. We have our rag dolls here, some African American ones. We have some of the China dolls down here. I've got board games and some fun reading materials for the kids from different time periods. I've also got some clothing that I've got
I
textiles.
have to ask, every museum has a creepy doll. Do you have a creepy doll with
Oh.
porcelain and weird eyes or anything?
Oh, these are our porcelain dolls. I guess that would be one of our dolls. The one in the pink is actually missing her hair. So if I took that hat off, it would be sticking straight out. So I would have to say she would probably be that,
Okay.
that position. We have some infant and some really turn of the last century clothing here for children. We've got some christening gowns here. And down this way, I've got some more apparel for the children. Some of their toys, buggy. These are, back in here is our oldest collection of artifacts. I've got spinning wheels. For the small one is for flax, and the largest one is for wheat. So our area, notoriously most of the time, has been growing corn. We were agrarian in nature for a very long time. Still have a lot of farming that goes on in Middlesex County. This is probably, if you would say something that's creepy, would have to be this chair. Believe it or not, this is a birthing chair, and our women in the past would have sat on it to deliver their next generation into the world. So I would have to give that as kind of the most creepiest object that we have. I could not imagine giving birth in something like that.
Now, I have viewers from New Zealand and Australia, and I know they're going to ask me, what are the sacks hanging from the ceiling?
This part of Virginia is known for their peanuts and their pigs. We had right across the river, the James River, about an hour from here is Smithfield, Virginia, and they were known for their Smithfield hams, country hams, for a very long period of time. And so these are a sample of 3 different hams. Hams were cured with salt, and they were stapled in and utilized as a flavoring in food for a very long time. A lot of places, people would cure their own, also on their own properties as part of farming implements. This area, this is also one of our most famous residents. This is Exterminator. He won the Kentucky Derby in 1918. He would come here afterwards. His owner was part of a family that owned, I don't know if you can see down here, Swamp Root, was part of a cure for whatever ailed you. It was a general cure. It had a large percentage of alcohol in it, so it was extremely popular. The Kilmers is who invented it. If you spell that backwards, it becomes the word Remlick, and Remlick is a town here in Middlesex, a little enclave where they settled and built a beautiful big mansion. He was the nephew of the Kilmer family, was the publisher of the newspaper in Binghamton, New York, and so he was a very flamboyant playboy, and then when he did marry, he still became very active. So he was a socially involved person. So they would come down here, had lavish parties. He had a big yacht that he parked down here on the water. He also
what year was that, roughly?
This was 1918. So he would come down like in the 20s through. He ended up, his house caught on fire and burned down, unfortunately. So, but he was very active in the area for, I would say, at least 20 years or so. This area is of the museum is dedicated to our wharfs and the old country store. We used to have a lot of country stores in the area, over 30 of them in our peninsula, and because we're a peninsula, one of the earliest forms of transportation has always been the water and boating. And so people would have little skiffs. They would have the Indians, natives had canoes. And then as we move forward in time, we were known for our steamboats. This little section here is all about the steamboats. We were connected to Baltimore because of the Chesapeake Bay, and so the was such a lovely idea, I thought, for modern times. They would get on the boat here in Middlesex. They would have a very nice dinner, which had all fresh seafood, local fish caught, fresh produce from that area, from the fields that came through. They would then have a nice little evening, possibly playing cards, listening to some music, live presentations, and then they would go to sleep. They would wake up the next morning in Baltimore. They would have continued their travel while they were sleeping. They would spend the day in Baltimore, get back on the boat, and come back down the next day. So it was a very interesting thought of travel. It kept our isolated area here in Middlesex connected to the big city, so that we had access to different types of nice high-end tailors and the latest quote-unquote fads of I had a top hat in here somewhere. Top hats and clothing available, but also medicines that were available. You could, if you personally did not want to go up to Baltimore, you could order things. I've got order books down here from some of the stores that were there in Baltimore, so they could place the orders at the stores. They would then ship them, and they would arrive on the boats. This was also profitable for our county farmers. They would raise their crops here, load them and sell them to these stores that were in Baltimore, or the steamboats themselves, and crops of corn. Watermelon was a huge one. They would load all the watermelons up, go up and spend the day Saturday selling them. We had a really nice story about one of the aspects that we've done here for the museum is that we have done biographical recordings of some of our older residents, and we had a couple gentlemen who were over 100 that remembered as teenagers that they used to be the watermelon boys, and they would raise them. We were known for our watermelon at one point in time. We were known for our tomatoes. We also had pickling going on in this area, so it was quite a diverse offering that we had for our plants. All of this big heritage and connection and came to a total standstill and destroyed when the hurricane of 1933 came through. It came totally unannounced. It hit at high tide at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. It came up all the rivers from Norfolk and Newport News, flooded up as it came up over, so the crops were destroyed. The salt water got on the ground. The wharfs, there were so many wharfs that were just totally destroyed. The boats were not aware. They were still on the water. Nothing was brought in ahead of time as a precaution. So everything was just devastated. It was 33. We're in the middle of the Depression, so there was not a lot of money available to rebuild this, and it was not rebuilt. So sadly, that was a segment of Middlesex time that's it took a while for us to get over, to adjust to the new types of life. But what happened is, instead of being connected to Baltimore, they ended up influxing with roads. The car became much more important to our area of the country, and we became connected to Richmond. So that moved forward in time as we leave the 1900s into the 2000s. We have a lot of families now that have come here for the weekend, have second homes here with Richmond. So that is a nice venue for the big city urban people who want to relax. We still have that wonderful old-fashioned weekend of relaxing with a fishing pole. Middlesex has been known for a very long time for our watermen. Our rivers have always been important, and what has been in the rivers were our oysters, our rockfish, and other fish. You could go out, get a fresh dinner every night, bringing that back home. So in periods of like after the Civil War, after this devastating hurricane, we had our local people were able to sustain themselves because we had sustenance of our natural resources that we had. They were noted by John Smith when he came through the area. I can show you that in a little bit. We have a whole exhibit on that. The natives, when he arrived, were noticeably taking advantage of all of our natural resources here in Middlesex, including the fish and the supposedly plate-sized oysters at that point in time.
Wow.
So that would be quite a yummy undertaking to have that for dinner.
All right, well, I'll pause us here and we get reorganized for the next section of the museum.
Okay. So as our storytelling goes for Middlesex County, one of the, a lot of them are we call them the come heres and the from heres. So this is a come here. She was actually coming through the area. She was living at the time in Baltimore, Maryland, Irene Morgan. She was coming home. She just had a miscarriage and she was coming home to Gloucester to stay with her mom to rejuvenate from that miscarriage. On July 16th, 1944, she got on a Greyhound bus and rode part of the way to go back to Baltimore. So she's crossing the state line from Virginia into Maryland. Irene was asked to give up her seat at one of the stops, and she was obviously not feeling well, and she refused. She had paid for her ticket and she wanted her seat, and so they called the police, the sheriff's department, and a sheriff from Middlesex County came and asked her to get off the bus. She refused. There was a bit of a little skirmish, and she was removed from the bus and brought into Middlesex County, and her court case was then heard here, and it went from our courthouse, the historic building that you saw earlier, and her case was heard here. She went on to the state level, and then she went to the national court, the Supreme Court, and she won her case. Thurgood Marshall was cutting his teeth at that point in time on cases, and he was her lawyer. So she predates Rosa Parks by 6 years, and she is her case was won because she was intrastate. She was going in between two different states, and the same laws did not apply in Maryland that applied in Virginia, and so that is the point that they used to argue her case. We're thrilled to showcase her story here in Middlesex County. We have a lot of artifacts that came from her granddaughter that shared with us, and we have a really nice plaque that's in the courthouse center that explains a lot to the kids or to anybody coming through. So Irene is a big role model and a woman who stood by her convictions. She's also a very interesting person. At that point in time, she had not graduated from high school, so she did that, and then she got her she got her GED, and then as an adult she went back and got her bachelor's and then also her master's degree. So at that point in time, she here we have received all of these. At 35, she got her GED, her BA at 68, and her MA and at 73. So she's very inspirational. Her story has a lot of really inspiring moments in it on multiple levels. So we're thrilled to have her story as part of our museum here.
Well, thank you very much.
And move over to our other annex. I wanted to point out we have a really nice glass collection. Back over here and up in here, you can see a nice variety. We had a Coke bottling plant here at one point in time, and we have a lot of glass that has survived through the centuries, actually. This case has some of our oldest glass. These rounded bottom were wine venues from the 1600s and 1700s. As we move forward in time, they used to have personal seals on some of the more expensive wines that were ordered ahead of time, 12 bottles to a case, and they would have arrived from Spain. A lot of this is Spanish wine. We have some of our earliest pieces here also from architectural pieces from different buildings, handmade bricks. Because of where we are geographically, another one of our wonderful natural resources is our sand, our clay, and our water. And if you mix that all together with some ash, you can get some mortar, and you can also get materials to make bricks. So we have a lot of buildings that are still standing that were made in the 1700s with the craftsmen, enslaved craftsmen that were making these wonderful handmade bricks that are sturdy, and they've survived 300 years. So let's adjourn and we'll go over to the other building.
So where are we heading next?
We're going to our next door annex, and we have two big exhibits up there, 3 of them actually. I've got the John Smith's arrival in our area. We've got a whole section on our fossils that have been found in our area, and then also a section on the vast array of schools that we've had in the course of 150 years.
All right, let's head over.
Okay.
All right, let's see what's in this building. This is the second building of our museum tour. And oh my goodness, it's none other than Goober, the traveling bear. And this is a really neat room. Can you tell me all about it?
Yes, this is, we focused on some of our oldest history that we know about our county. Some of our prehistoric earliest residents, we have no written words about, but we have a lot of things that they left behind. So I've got fossils, I've got, we were underwater as a peninsula over 3 different times. So we have lots and lots of layers and layers of shells of some of the animals that were here. We're blessed with a lot of variety with that. We actually had coral at one point in time, so we were very warm as far as water went. We have some of the vertebrates that were left from some of the whales, the dolphins. We had a lot of sea life. We have, again, as you come over, look over it this way, I've got some more of the shells.
And it looks like Goober is working on maps here.
Goober is one of, when we were first recorded, as far as the words, was John Smith. He came in the very early 1600s. He kept journals about his visits. He made a map here. This is what Goober was looking at with his magnifying glass. We are this little area right here of the map, and this is the Chesapeake Bay. They're calling it the Virginian Sea. We have his. He talked a lot about the Powhatan Indians, there were over 30 different tribes that were included in that. We had 3 of them living here in Middlesex. They were very much involved on the aspect of utilizing all of the natural resources that Middlesex had, which was a lot. We had a lot of very large trees that were cypress, and they made a great canoe. And so they were used a lot for trading with other natives in other parts of the state and even in the nation. The Shawnee actually got them through the Ohio River Valley also because of the nature of they would not become waterlogged and they did not rot. So we have that in Dragon Swamp was the name of it. But this exhibit is showcasing the seasonal life of the natives. These were all made by one of our residents. He did a reenactment there, and he handmade all of these with natural pieces, and then he wore them when he did his reenactments. He donated this in the 1980s, and we have, see what his last name, he was, I was thrilled to find this when I came here. His last name was Loving. His name was Willard H. Loving. They called him Bear.
Bear.
So he wore these during his reenactment that he did. He was part of Native descendant. This is showcasing, we have a lot of pieces that come up when people are putting in new gardens or a new house. This is a grinding stone, so they would have used this to grind up corn to make it into like corn, kind of like how you make a potato patty or a pancake. They use that with the corn. These are a sample of 2 different sizes. We have a lot of different types of arrows, and over here you can see this.
I'll get your arrowheads, because I have a lot of viewers that love Native American history.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So this, they found one of the species that lived here that were very prominent were deer. So we had a lot of the white-tailed deer. This is a sample of a piece that's been a hide that's been tanned naturally, and they use this for clothing. They also used all of these over here. We have some other animals that they either hunted, are captured 8. We have beavers and fish and deer and turtles, and also some different types of
sea life.
Yes, all different kinds of sea life, and our mollusks, which is like the oysters, were very yummy to eat. So this is one of the illustrations that he included in one of his maps, showcasing how they dressed, their manner of dress, and also the types of, this was, I did not notice this when I saw it was this big, but when it got blown up, he has a cougar tail that is part of his ensemble, so that's showing his bravery. They hunted by pulling their arrows back. They used arrows a lot. So this side of his head, where he pulls the arrow back, is shaved, so he won't get it entangled as he's doing his hunting. You can see here some of the other pictorials of how they go on hunting parties. Another illustration he used was here, showing that the fish, this is showing an actual fishing expedition. This is in the canoe that I talked about, the cypress canoes from our swamp area. And then we have, look how big the fish are, and the turtles and different water life that's there. They would smoke them. So these are showing some sturgeon that were here at that point in time. Very large fish that they would smoke and then be able to use them the rest of the season. One I forgot to show you when you came in was our whalebone.
Where did that come from?
It's actually a humpback whale. He was a juvenile. We are on the east coast of the United States, and because of that, we are privy to the migration from cold waters up in Newfoundland, Iceland area, down past Canada and the United States, down to the warmer waters where they birth up with the humpback whales. And so this is a juvenile male. It was found at the mouth of the Rappahannock River and the Chesapeake Bay in the 1970s. So this was brought into us. If you look, so this is actually part of the skull. As you're looking up through the skull.
Wow.
Of how that works. I'm sorry, we're actually looking from this direction.
Okay.
With what you see here. So this is showing the migration as it comes down the coast.
I have to ask, I gather that's pretty heavy.
It is very heavy. Yes. And it is one of our big pieces the kids love. So we have a lot of materials that we develop for educational materials for the kids about our sea life and about our native life that was here early on. And then we've got our last collection I wanted to show you.
Okay, I'll pause here.
So this room is dedicated to the education and development of schools and of both of our Black and African American, Native Americans, and of our families as they move forward in time from after Reconstruction and into the early 20th century. So we have, this is all being built at the moment, so excuse our little bit of a mess.
It's wonderful that you have this in progress.
Yes, so we have here, we've got some one-room schoolhouses that were built as part of that project. We have some wonderful photography that showed up. We have Tyler Radenbaugh is one of our researchers, and he does unbelievable finds when he digs, and this was a beautiful one showing the one-room schoolhouse with the children labeled Middlesex County. So this is a sample of a home desk that the kids would have had. We have some of our variety of different diplomas that we've had from excuse me. So this case is just showcasing some of the schools for African Americans, some of the classes, some of the teachers. We had a really solid intertwining of church and school for the families here in Middlesex, and they worked really hard to educate the kids, kept them with the basics and then expanding into others. It's been a really, if you want to move this way,
Okay.
you can see in here, I've got, wanted to see some of the earlier teachers of Middlesex Training School that we had here.
Yeah, I'm closing in on it.
And
Early teachers.
we have St. Clair Walker, was a gentleman who came here, went on to college in Hampton, and then came back and became and started school, was a principal, a teacher, for I believe it was 60 years. So here's a listing down here of some of our first black schools. We had a lot of energy, commitment.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, what is their school? I see a beautiful picture up here. That is
one of our more than a one-room schoolroom. This is a larger school. So we have here's a class of 22. I think that one says over there.
yeah.
I'm not.
Class of 1932.
Okay. So you can see they're having a reunion there. They have very active with afterwards with the tight knitness of our county, which was great. So they really felt a sense of connection with fellow students, and so that helped as they moved forward in life. This is another section over here of some of the other schools that we had. So we had Saluda High School, Urbana High School. Again, moving forward, initially they had some schools that went from elementary all the way up through high school. So all the kids of various ages were all in the same school together. So we have May Day used to be a big celebration. We have a lot of photography of those different types of. The celebration of May Day is that winter's over and spring has come, and the prosperity of looking forward to the crops that are being planted. So it's a celebration of the cycles. So this case area is getting ready to go up for African American businesses. So we've just gotten some in here. This is a boat building business that he had. This is a sample of his tools that he had. So we're thrilled to get that in. That's going to be going up at the. I've applied for funding grants right now. We're waiting to hear back the first part of June of the cycle closed the first part of April. So hopefully that grant will help support getting some new cases and development of educational materials to include research on some of our aspects of history that are being overlooked, including our younger kids, our females, our African American, and our small farmers. A lot of focus has been in the past on our large plantations, and we really want to look at some of the farmers that were 10 acres or 50 acres, or to see how that played out. We had a very large population of African Americans in our county from early on, so we wanted to look at how those. We had a lot of free African Americans that settled here, so we wanted to look into that. We also wanted to look into. We had a lot of widows that decided to not remarry, and so they kept their husbands' quote unquote original assets and moved forward with them and became very prosperous with those because they themselves were also intelligent. So they were, as a whole, have been overlooked by a lot of historians that are telling stories. So we're trying to include a lot. We have a lot of really nice original plats here. We have original wills. We have original manumission papers. All of these legal documents are telling stories about people, and so we're trying to take the time with more research and to discover a variety of stories that we can tell that keep the interest of especially our modern children and young people as they move forward, as they learn about our history, that they get a full knowledge base that's well-rounded for a variety of different types of personalities that were our forebears here. So
Well, hold on, we'll pause here.
So I appreciate you coming today, Hubert, and bringing your friends with you. Again, we're open on Wednesdays and Fridays from 1 to 5, and on Sundays from 1 to 3. So we look forward to having you visit us on the Middle Peninsula of Virginia, just on the Chesapeake shores, here on the western side of the Chesapeake Bay. Thank you so much, and come enjoy our history with us. We have so many stories to tell.
All right, and everyone, please visit this museum. It's a wonderful site, not far from Gloucester, Yorktown. Goober says it's 2 paws up, and that's right, 2 paws up. Stay safe, be kind, and be courteous, everyone.